With just 3 weeks to go until the Football World Cup in Brazil, the contribution of African footballers to the beautiful game is still largely unappreciated. Well, earlier this week, I spoke to Manny Abbeyquaye from the Out of Africa campaign, and I asked him whether black players are getting the same degree of recognition and respect as their white counterparts.
There's still a long way to go to giving them the sort of recognition. I listened to an interview that Yaya Toure did recently, and he did touch on the fact that he didn't feel he was getting the same sort of recognition, or African players who I think don't get the same sort of recognition. But if you look at the journey that that African players have come on, particularly or black players have come on, they've gone from having bananas thrown at them onto the pitch to now being household names and having the names on the back of shirts and fans chanting their names. So,
although the bananas are still being thrown,
yes, in some, unfortunately, in some parts of Europe, yeah. But fortunately, in the UK, I think we've gone past that, and I don't think that will ever be an issue anymore.
Do you think that in some respects the United Kingdom is perhaps a bit tougher in terms of dealing with racism, be it from the fans or the players, than perhaps other countries?
Not necessarily a bit tougher, but I think they've put in a lot of work in the past and Kick It Out and the PFA have worked really hard to bring
the Professional Footballers Association, the Players Union.
Yes, have worked really hard to bring football to where it is now for the fans and for the players. We've still had a few issues in the past. Very recently, or as recently as last year, I think there was the issues with John Terry and Luis Suarez, but those are very little and very few and far between. Generally, racism is not a big issue in English football anymore.
So, I mean, you've launched the Out of Africa campaign, so it's got a pretty big brief, not just to encourage black youngsters to actually get involved in football, the beautiful game, but also to combat some of the very issues that you've been talking about, because that, I assume, racism would be a deterrent for some very talented youngsters.
It is, or it couldn't be. You obviously listen to stories, and racism is not a nice thing, as we all know. So that anything like that will be a deterrent. But the Out of Africa project celebrates more than anything else. Celebrates those successes that and the distance travelled, really, and where we are now. And the contribution of the players, and not just on the field but off it as well, and obviously back home in Africa.
I mean, we're talking about the players, but there's an absence, a distinct absence of black men coaching footballers at the top levels and also managing teams.
Yes, yeah, that's true. But if you look at football players, that was the case not too long ago. So I think it's a gradual process. But slowly and surely, I think we'll get there. There's a lot of initiatives, especially by Kick It Out again, to encourage black people or black players or ex-players to go into coaching. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. Personally, I think all we need is one good black manager to make. We have had a few, but to make a significant impact, I think. And that will really open the door like it did for the footballers.
Timing is everything in life, and it's interesting that this campaign has been launched when we're just a handful of weeks away from the World Cup. So for a black African nation to win the World Cup, really underscoring what you're trying to do. Yes,
that would be great if we. I think for me, we need to get a semi-finalist. We've had a few quarter-finalists. Ghana was unfortunate last time round. They were quite close. Hopefully we might get a semi-finalist. I have a strong feeling that this year there's gonna be one of the teams who make it that far. And once we get a semi-finalist, anything is possible, as you know, in tournament football.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Which team do you think will go as far as the distance will allow them to?
In terms of African
In terms of an African nation?
I have a slight bias towards Ghana. But I think on paper, Ivory Coast have got a fairly strong team in terms of, in all the units, defence, midfield and attack. with great experience in Europe and competing at the highest level. So I will stick my neck out and say Ivory Coast will go the furthest.
OK, Ivory Coast, the one to watch. Manny, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.